So I watched a 60-minute interview with President Trump last night, and then I read about 7 in the morning the entire transcript that CBS posted. I got to tell you, it was so convoluted and all over the place that I'm sitting there and I go, maybe it's me, but I didn't learn one thing, nothing from that interview. And I think the interview ran more than an hour. Didn't run that long on TV, but the transcript, there's a lot of stuff that they didn't air. And I'm going, what's going on? So it's my job to tell you what's going on, and I will. And I'm not trying to be petty or criticize Norah O'Donnell, the CBS correspondent. I don't want to do that. But I got to be honest. I mean, I'm watching, it's my time, and I'm trying to learn something, and I'm not learning. Now, if you disagree, if you did learn something, I will read your letter tomorrow. Bill@BillO'Reilly.com. Name in town, as always, but Bill@BillO'Reilly.com. It could be me, been in the business 50 years, so maybe I'm just way out of touch with, the regular discourse. So the interview is the subject of this evening's Talking Points memo. I picked out 5 or 6 short sound bites, short 30 seconds or so, because the repetition was numbing. It was numbing. And again, I'm not trying to blame anybody here. I'm going to explain what was happening, that Donald Trump goes into an interview, and you got to pin him down with specifics. You got to hit him with stuff he's not expecting. Not because you want to gotcha him, all right? It's because you're not going to get anything if you ask predictable questions and he gives predictable answers that he's given 100 times before. He's got all that in. And he anticipated there wasn't going to be anything out of the usual. Okay? It was obvious from the very beginning. So the government shut down, and there's some news today that the feds will start to fund the food stamps shortly. Specifics have not been released, but that money is going to start to flow. And it should, and I'll tell you why in a little while. Not to everybody. There's a lot of fraud in that, but there's a lot of need in that too. Okay, so we got to be very careful here. But anyway, the shutdown was obviously in play. It's breaking news. Here's what happened. Go.
Here's what I can't do. I can't give them $1.5 trillion so that they can give welfare to people that came into our country illegally, so that prisoners and that people from mental institutions and people that are drug dealers get vast amounts of money for health care. That I can't do.
So what
I can do is I can continue to run a great country. We have the best economy we've ever had.
All right. So there is some truth to what the president is saying, and I don't care if Chuck Schumer lies all day long. There is money rooted in Democratic states through Medicaid to illegal aliens. All you got to do is look at the budget for the state of Oregon. It's there, right? Black and white. $1.5 million earmarked for undocumented people through Medicaid. That's tax money. That's federal tax money given to Oregon by the feds. And Trump is right about that. But overall, it's a complicated situation. But the Republican Party is never going to give the Democratic Party a carte blanche to keep rising the costs of Obamacare. And, I wrote a column on BillO'Reilly.com. If it's got all the stats, how when Obamacare was passed, here was the number the Congressional Budget Office said was going to happen. It's way more than that, with no end in sight. No, it's going to bankrupt the nation. Continue to do this. Republicans are never going to do it. And the Democrats knew that, but tried to ram it through anyway, knowing the government was going to shut down. So Trump is holding firm. There's going to have to be some kind of accommodation made. I don't know what it is, but I'm still confident that will happen. But I'm going to tell you at the end of the program, I got to fly this week. I'm not confident that plane's going to get off the ground. All right, the second one was about high prices. Now, this is the most important thing for the Trump administration right now, because they have to hold next year in the midterms Congress. Roll tape.
I inherited the worst inflation in history of our country. We don't have inflation. We're down to 2%, even less than 2%. A couple of items like beef, I'm getting down. But our groceries are down.
Healthcare premiums?
I can fix healthcare. Give them better healthcare for less money. Obamacare is hurting people. Obamacare was a disaster from day one. I can fix it and make it good. I'd really rather start with a fresh plate, but if it's required to keep it, we can make it much better.
That's a good answer. Okay, because if fiscally, Obamacare is out of control. Not that the Democrats care about that. They don't care because they want the government to run health care. That's the goal. Yes, bankrupt Obamacare. Bankrupt it. And then the feds will have to take over the whole system. You know what that will lead to? And I'll get into this tomorrow. That will lead to a two-tier healthcare system in America, because doctors will just get out and go into concierge treatments. So the wealthy people, the affluent people, will have their private doctor. They'll pay more for it. And everybody else will be left with physician's assistants and RNs and all of this, because most of the doctors, they're gone. They're not going to do this government-run stuff. It happened in England. If you're wealthy, you're not in the public health system in Great Britain. You're not. You hired your own doctor. That's exactly what will happen here. That the poor working and the working people get much less in the medical area if the government runs everything. Boy. All right, the third one was the most controversial story right now about undocumented migrants and how ICE is tracking them down. Go.
Is it your intent to deport people who do not have a criminal record?
We have to start off with a policy, and the policy has to be you came into the country illegally, you're going to go out. However, you've also seen you're going to go out, we're going to work with you, and you're going to come back into our country legally, because we have a lot of good people. And we've accepted all of these people because of Biden's open border policy, where people would walk in totally unchecked and unvetted, murderers and everybody else.
When will you declare mission accomplished on immigration?
Well, it takes a long time because, probably I say 25 million people were let into our country.
I'd say 15, but as the president said later on, it doesn't really matter, 15, 25. The worst public policy ever in this country was the open border, totally engineered by one man. That was President Biden. Can I be any more clear than that? What a dereliction of duty. All right. Some advice for the Trump administration here from your humble correspondent. A heavy hand when you're not sure of criminality. So there's an ICE raid. You're not sure who you got. A heavy hand is not what you want. You got to protect yourself. Criminal alien, you have a warrant, you know it's a person, then you go. But if it's some woman or a child or something like that who just happens to be in the vicinity, lighter touch. Okay. Supreme Court and tariffs. Huge story for all of us because it will affect the American economy. Roll tape.
What happens to your economic plan if the Supreme Court invalidates your tariffs?
I think our country would be immeasurably hurt. I think our economy will go to hell. Look, because of tariffs, we have the highest stock market we've ever had. Because of tariffs, 401ks at the highest level, and this is millions and millions of people that we've ever had, 401ks. I think it's the most important subject discussed by the Supreme Court in 100 years.
Maybe. Because if the Supreme Court were to rule that the President of the United States does not have the power to impose tariffs without congressional approval, stock market get down 5,000 points in one day. That will happen. So, and the Supreme Court are deliberating on this right now. I'll make a prediction right here on November 3rd that the Supreme Court will uphold the president's right to unilaterally, that means by himself, slap tariffs on foreign nations. It almost has to. Because just what Donald Trump said, you'll blow up the whole system. That's how reliant we are now on this new trade situation. Okay. Finally, China, which you know I am deeply involved with this. Here, Norah O'Donnell, this was good. So most of her questions were predictable, not backed up by facts. She didn't seem to have command of both sides of the story. She's taken a liberal line. And Ms. O'Donnell is a liberal, as I wrote in the message of the day on BillO'Reilly.com. But it's okay. She's not a bad person. She's not corrupt. I know her. She's not. There's some of them that are horrible. But she's liberal, and she takes that line. But here, she asks a very good question about China. Go.
Our own intelligence agencies say the Chinese have infiltrated parts of the American power grid and our water systems. They steal American intellectual property and Americans' personal information. They bought American farmland. How big of a threat is China?
It's like everybody else. We're a threat to them, too. Many of the things that you say, we do to them. Look, this is a very competitive world, especially when it comes to China and the U.S., and we're always watching them, and they're always watching us. In the meantime, I think we get along very well, and I think I think we can be bigger, better, and stronger by working with them as opposed to just knocking them out.
Good. That's exactly the way I feel. And you got to get along with these people. All right, summing up, number one, was that a fair assessment of the 60-minute interview? If I'm unfair, I want you to tell me. Bill at BillO'Reilly.com. All right? To me, I didn't learn anything. So I'm sitting there going, come on. I'm hoping that I can secure an interview with President Trump before the end of the year. That's my goal. He knows that we would like it. We were supposed to do it, but then he got the Hamas stuff going on and had to go over with the hostages. Now, if I get it, I'm going to really be under pressure, right? So, but boy, it'll be interesting. And that's the memo. New York City. I live 8 miles outside the city. So I'm not affected directly by Mamdani. In fact, he did me a favor. My property is up 20% in estimated value since Zohran announced he wanted to be mayor. 20%. People getting out. Latest poll, Atlas, good poll, nailed the the Trump Kamala Harris race. Exactly. Atlas is out of Brazil. Here's what they say. Zohran Mamdani, 41%. Andrew Cuomo, 34%. Slee with 24%. Vote, of course, is tomorrow. And it's going to be the highest turnout in quite some time. Everybody's jazzed. Now, services and public safety are the two big things that, if Mamdani is elected, are going to be right forefront. Services being going to pick up your garbage. They're going to clean up the city. Traffic, congestion, pollution. I think it's all going to get worse. Public safety, no doubt it's going to get worse. Because Mamdani is soft on crime. Doesn't want to punish the criminals. Joining us now is John Chell. This is a great booking we got here. Mr. Chell just retired a few weeks ago as chief of department for New York City Police Department. He was the highest ranking uniformed officer in the department for the last couple of years. He joins us from Staten Island. That's a pretty good lead in for you, Chief, right?
Thank you, sir. Sound pretty good. Thank you.
Are you moving out of here if Mamdani wins?
Nah, I'll be staying right here, just trying to do my part and support the city the best I can. But like you said, if he wins, the whole paradigm of public safety is going to shift to a social network versus a law enforcement network. And, you know, in some places I worked a little bit in policing, but it really has the potential to hurt this whole city as it relates to public safety.
Give me some specifics on what you see happening.
Well, first look at his rhetoric. He's no fan of the police department by his own words. When you hear his rhetoric about he wants to maintain staffing levels, well, what does that mean? We're already down 1,000 cops, and about 3,800 change can leave in January. So he doesn't want to hire more cops, and we need more cops. Look at his rhetoric as it relates to crime. He's kind of nuanced. Well, I didn't say I don't want prostitution, but I want to decriminalize it. I didn't say I don't want to enforce misdemeanors, which those are those perception laws, right? But I don't want cops focused on low-level offenses. So he's sending signals out here that he wants more of a social network, and to pay for that, what about $1.8 billion into his community action teams? That's going to come from the police department budget. That's really going to hurt. Because, Bill, you know, this city's 24/7, 365. Every minute something happens here. We just came through. Yeah.
I do know that, and I know a lot about policing, as you know. And what I see is that 911 calls will be delayed because there just physically aren't going to be enough cops on the shifts to answer them as quickly as they need to be answered. The morale in a police department, setting up civilian review boards to Monday morning quarterback everything the cops do in the street. And these review boards, they don't like the police. They're anti-police. So before you left, Mamdani was obviously in play. Generally speaking, how did the police see this?
Well, you just hit it. Morale is hurting. It's hurting because we're understaffed and we're working too hard. And here's something you probably want to know, Bill. The cops want a great contract and they don't have one. But their biggest complaint of all, to all the unions, and I dealt with them every day, was the Civilian Complaint Review Board. If he gets his way, which is a ballot issue for next year, to have the Civilian Complaint Review Board be the final arbiter of complaints against cops, you will see a mass exodus. No cop is going to stay to let some 20-year-old kid who's not an investigator, pretending to be an investigator, who's going to adjudicate laws against the police department.
Sure.
That will be a backbreaker.
Well, it puts the cops in danger because they can be sued civilly. I mean, you can break them by filing a lawsuit on assault or whatever. But what we have been following is the assaults on police, physical assaults, people punching them, kicking them, all of that. And those crimes have risen dramatically, or am I wrong?
They're up about 40%, 40% since bail reform. And the conviction rate for a felony conviction for attacking a police officer is at an abysmal 6%.
Wow.
This is why recidivism, as much as we brought crime down, because we have a 30% rise in crime since bail reform. So we're fighting this new platform of crime by about 127,000 crimes a year, and we're getting it down 1, 2, 3, 4% because we suffer from recidivism. We suffer from lack of prosecution. Now, the ADAs, they inherited bail reform from our state legislative, but another actor here was not doing their job are the judges. They're confusing their ideology for the law. The whole system is messed up here, Bill.
It's the DAs, too, Bragg, and particularly Bragg in Manhattan and Darcel Clark in Bronx. You know the case of the two NYPDs who were attacked on a subway platform in the Bronx on videotape. Both of them had to go to the hospital. There were 3 attackers. 2 were arrested and charged. That case has been adjourned 20 times, 2-0. That's they don't want to prosecute. Darcel Clark in the Bronx doesn't want to prosecute these thugs. They're out. They've been out. They haven't spent, I don't think they spent even an overnight in jail.
Well, I'll tell you something else, Bill. Okay, first of all, think about what happened. You're smoking a cigarette. Police officer asks you to distinguish the cigarette or leave. And their response is to a full frontal attack.
Yeah.
You get arrested for assault to a police officer. You go in front of a judge, and the judge lets them out. Now, 5 months later, Mr. McCleary gets locked up for an illegal gun. And
That's one of the guys charged.
Yes. Yep. He's one of the two that's charged with assault too. He gets locked up for a gun, and he's still out. He's a 2-time walking indictment.
Right.
Walking around our streets. This is broken.
Sure, but that's Albany, and that's the legislature. It's not Mamdani, but Mamdani sympathizes with that. But what annoyed me on this case, other than the obvious travesty of adjournment 20 times, is that the police unions didn't stand up. All right? They didn't. They should be out there with signs in front of Clark's office. They should be screaming and yelling. Nobody knows about the case. And these poor officers, and everybody in the cops know, they know they're not going to get a lot of support if they even get shot. And that's the final word. You got a guy who's soft on crime, Mamdani. There's no question he's soft on crime. You got a budget cutter who's going to take money away from the police. You got 911 where the innocent people in New York who are set upon by dangerous criminals, that's their last line of defense. And that's going to collapse, I predict right now. Last word.
It's a recipe for disaster. Response times are going to go higher. Calls for service are already up 20%. And then if you're going to hamstring the cops, they are not going to be proactive. They're going to be reactive. They're not going to take chances, and the collective effect is going to really hurt the city. We already came back from bail reform from 2022 because we were stuck in COVID. I don't know if we can come back a second time. And
I don't know. Really Mamdani in 4 years is going to do so much damage, not only to the police, but to the social fabric of the city. It almost will be unrecognizable. Hey, Chief, we really appreciate it. Enjoy your retirement, and we'll talk again soon, I hope. Thank you.
Thank you.
Final thought, as I mentioned earlier, I got to go to L.A. On Wednesday. We'll be there, do the Bill Maher show, Howie Mandel show, Billy Bush show, lots of shows. And then I got to cast Confronting Evil for the movies. Busy. I'm hoping the plane takes off. I'll be whining if it doesn't. But that's what we got going on this week. But we will be here the rest of the week, giving you the best information possible. Thank you very much for watching the No Spin News and listening on the radio. I'm Bill O'Reilly. We'll see you again tomorrow. Reporting from Manhattan this evening. I had a speaking engagement here this morning. Went very well. A lot of people very interested in confronting the presidents, confronting evil. Lots of questions about President Trump, and I was happy to answer them. Now, I'm hoping this Epstein story dies, but it won't. The conspiracy people will keep it going. A lot of agendas in place. I have to watch it, but President Trump signed the legislation. Within 30 days, the Justice Department will release, not everything, but most of it. We'll watch it. But by far and away, the most important story for President Trump, the Republicans, the country, you, me, is the cost of existence in America. It's got to get under control. There's a new poll out about presidential election 3 years from now, but it's all coming back to money. And that is the subject of the Talking Points memo. Okay, Marist poll. I went to Marist College. It's now Marist University. Not the place that I attended, much more liberal now. It's okay. You want to go there, you go there. Not my, I was going to say a cliche cup of tea, but I'm not going to do that. But anyway, they have a poll. And it is not a very good poll. And I'm hoping, because I know some people who work the poll, that it gets better. For example, they last year for the presidential vote, they had Harris up by 4 going into Election Day. Come on. I mean, you got to do better than that. Anyway, they conducted a poll this month on what's likely to be the big issue in the presidential election going forward. 28. Here it is. Lowering prices 57%. No surprise. Controlling immigration 16. Reducing crime 9. Ending the war between Ukraine and Russia 7. Maintaining peace between Israel and Gaza 6. So there's no doubt about it. President Trump and his administration, if they want to hold the House and Senate next November, they got to get the prices down of insurance, healthcare, car, house, and food. Not that far away on the food. The opposition, of course, is hysterical. It's only about 3%, but it's up. And oil's down. But it's up to them. They know, everybody knows, this is not a secret. Another poll, Gallup, almost 20,000 U.S. adults. Do you think Americans pay too much, too little, or about right the quality of health care they receive? Pay too much, 90%. Too little, 2, about right, 8. 90%. That's a health care thing. And boy, oh boy, Republicans have got to get on it. How concerned are you your household will be able to pay for needed prescription drugs next 12 months? Extremely concerned, somewhat concerned, totals 37%. Okay, most people think they can make it. And how much stress does healthcare put on you and your family? 52% say a lot or some, 49% not much. But it is a very compelling issue. Got to get that health insurance premiums, Medicaid and Medicare spending under control. And that includes Obamacare. Okay. So I have to cover both parties. I favor the Republican Party now because it upholds traditional values like capitalism, like punishing criminals, like controlling borders, whereas the Democratic Party does not support that. However, I have to be fair, and I will be. And I'm going to be ruthless in how I cover the next 12 months because the Republicans have power now. But I'm not seeing a health care proposal on the table, are you? So Johnson and Thune, the two big boys in Congress, better get something going. Now, one area that is beyond dispute as far as Trump's effectiveness is concerned is foreign affairs. It is Joe Biden's birthday today. We're going to deal with that in the history segment. He's 83 years old. But Biden was the second worst president ever. If you read Confronting the Presidents, document that all day long. And I'll do it again tonight. I'll document why I believe that. But Trump's been very, very effective overseas. Extremely so. Anybody who denies that is just not being honest. And I wouldn't be debating anybody about it. Even CNN, all right, says, hey, Trump's approval on foreign policy has jumped from 35% in his first term to 43% today. Roll the tape.
We're talking about 43% now. That's an 8-point rise. On the net approval rating, we're talking about a double-digit rise. The American people like much more of what they're seeing from Donald Trump in foreign policy in term 2 than they did in term number 1.
Just for your frame of reference, Bush the younger stood at 36% approval for foreign affairs at this stage. That was the Iraq situation. And Barack Obama had 37% because Putin had seized Crimea. And Obama kind of wasn't fair to him. Obama did a good job on attacking the jihadists, ISIS, and things like that. We documented and killing the killers. But Trump is way, way ahead. But you're not going to win the midterms on foreign affairs. Not going to happen. All right, so tomorrow, I really wish I could be at this meeting. I haven't talked to the president about it, but boy, I'd love to be in this meeting. So Zohran Mamdani, who's the talk of New York City, wherever I go in the city, Everybody knows me, and that's a good thing. You know, I'm a local boy. What about Mamdani? What about Mamdani? What can I tell you? You know, the guy, there's not a lot of subterfuge there. He's a socialist, communist. That's what he is. So expect the worst. He's going to Washington, Zohran, tomorrow to talk to Trump. Here's what you need to know about this. Mamdani has no power at all with the federal government. None. No card to play, no negotiation, nothing. He's basically trying to get President Trump not to hurt him. That's it. So nothing Mamdani can do for Trump. Now, there are two big issues here. The first one is Mamdani has publicly stated he's not going to cooperate with ICE with trying to find undocumented people in this country who are dangerous. That's what ICE is trying to do. Yeah, they do round up people who are not dangerous, but it is always in conjunction with the seeking of criminals. Yeah, I have to understand that. All right. So here's what Mamdani has publicly said. Go.
I wanted to ensure that no officers are assisting with the actions of ICE.
And what you did see play out a couple weeks ago, what is your response to Tom Homan, who yesterday said, we'll be back?
Yeah, I will tell Tom Homan what I will tell anyone who asks, which is the fact that I am looking forward to representing the entirety of this city. And this city is also an immigrant city. It's a city that's proud of its immigrants' heritage. It's proud of the fact that so many from across the world find their home in this city. And we will protect those New Yorkers as we protect every New Yorker.
Okay, well, you won't because you have no power to do that. Now, I don't know if Trump is going to be as blunt as I am. I suspect he might be because there's another issue, and that is Netanyahu, okay, the leader of Israel. Mamdani says if he shows up in New York at a United Nations function or something, Mamdani's going to order the NYPD to arrest him. Roll the tape.
You said you would arrest Benjamin Netanyahu based on the 2024 International Court Arrest Warrant. Next UN General Assembly, as mayor, would you do that?
So I've said time and again that I believe this is a city of international law, and being a city of international law means looking to uphold international law, and that means upholding the warrants from the International Criminal Court, whether they're for Benjamin Netanyahu or Vladimir Putin. I think that that's critically important to showcase our values.
New York City is not a city of international law. This is insane. It's a city of American law, and the United States does not recognize the International Criminal Court. Now, again, I'd love to be in his bed. So if I'm Trump, I'm looking at Mamdani and I'm saying, listen, Mr. Mayor, with all due respect, we don't recognize the International Court. Our cities are under federal and state laws, not international law. And if you try to arrest not only Netanyahu, but Putin or anybody else, I'm going to have the FBI arrest you. You. Because you're violating federal law. That's why Putin can go to Alaska. All right? We don't recognize that he's a war criminal. He is, but officially we're not involved with the International Court. We don't do that. So I don't think Mamdani understands any of this, and I'm not sure how tough President Trump wants to be on the man, because here's the kicker on it. If Mamdani gets out of line and alienates Trump, Trump will stop all the federal money from coming in here. Yeah, there'll be litigation on it because Congress is the one that designates the money for block grants to cities. But Trump can hold that money up for a long time. And he may win the litigation if Mamdani violates federal law. And Mamdani himself, you know, it's a fine line that these guys walk about he talks, but if he did anything to interfere with ICE, and Homan correctly, as was stated, says there are going to be some ICE operations in New York City, some big ones coming up, and Mamdani interferes with that and you'll be arrested. Now, Mamdani might want that. Keep that in mind. He might want that. Get some worldwide headlines and attention. Anyway, we are all over this. If I get anything over the weekend about the meeting with Trump, may write a Sunday column on it, but I'll certainly report on Monday to you about Dick Cheney's funeral today in D.C. A little dicey. So, 46th Vice President of the United States, 2 former presidents in attendance, George W. Bush, Joe Biden, attended the funeral. Obama and Clinton did not. They said they had schedule conflicts, which of course they don't, because they can do what they want. It's as simple as that. So they just didn't want to go. I don't know why Obama didn't want to go, probably has a beef against Cheney, and Clinton's not well. All the vice presidents living, Kamala Harris, Mike Pence, Al Gore, Dan Quayle, are at the funeral. President Trump was not invited. Okay. So Cheney dies at the age of 84. Very staunch conservative. He booted the Iraq War. No doubt he did. Okay? Do I hold it against him? No. But it's on the record that his advice to President Bush about Iraq was wrong. It's wrong. Was he dishonest like Lyndon Johnson in Vietnam? No. He just made a mistake, in my judgment. But his daughter, former Congresswoman Liz Cheney from Wyoming, went out to try to destroy Donald Trump. Everybody knows that. And Dick Cheney supported his daughter in her quest. So it would be impossible for the Cheney family to invite President Trump, who wouldn't have gone anyway, because Liz Cheney is one of the speakers. See how messy this is? Now, I'm not criticizing anybody here. If I were Donald Trump and somebody tried to destroy my life, I wouldn't be too pleased. Okay, I certainly wouldn't go to a funeral, even though Cheney didn't try to destroy his life. Cheney backed his daughter's play, and she was outrageous, absolutely outrageous in what she did. You know, you can make up your own mind, but I'm glad that President Trump didn't get involved in this controversy. He didn't say anything. J.D. Vance did not go either, and that's out of allegiance to Donald Trump. I see it. I understand it all. I think Dick Cheney deserves respect. I think he was a patriot. I never really knew him that well. I mean, I helped him out on his book, but I think he deserves respect. Thomas Crooks, you know who he is? He's the guy who almost killed Donald Trump, the assassin in Butler, Pennsylvania, who was killed himself, the sniper, 20 years old. Okay. So Christopher Wray is in charge of the FBI at the time, and the FBI is in charge of the investigation into Thomas Crooks. Even though he's dead, you got to check him out to find out if he had any help. Christopher Wray, one of the worst FBI, you know, he's up there with Comey. I don't know who's worse, Wray or Comey. Oh my God. So you never get anything out of Wray, ever. You can't, we track him. He never says anything about anything. So we didn't know anything about Crooks. Kash Patel comes in with the Trump administration. Hasn't impressed me. I don't know about you, but it has not impressed me at all. I could be being unfair to Mr. Patel. I might be being unfair, but I'm sitting there going, I'm not seeing it right now, and I supported Patel's nomination, but I'm not seeing it. So Patel doesn't say anything about Crooks. We still don't know anything about him, even though this happened on July 13th, 2024, 18 months ago. We don't know anything about him. So the cable people go wild. Roll it.
Thomas Crooks came within a quarter inch of destroying this country. And yet, a year and a half later, we still know almost nothing about him or why he did it. That's because, for some reason, the FBI, even the current FBI, doesn't want us to know.
That was Tucker Carlson. And Mr. Carlson has an absolute legitimate point. The FBI doesn't want us to know. Why? Why? Tell the folks what you know. So Carlson's right on this. And then the New York Post, which generally supports the Trump administration, gets involved in investigating crooks. And Caroline Leavitt shows up for a Q&A, and here's what goes down. Go.
But there are so many questions out there. And I mean, did he act alone, et cetera? And it's, it's over a year, it's 16 months now.
For sure. So, yeah, I mean, those questions are definitely deserving of answers. And I understand why the public wants those answers. And I believe the president does too.
And so why don't we have them?
It's a good question. And it's one I'd like to see the answer to. And I think all Americans would.
Yeah, well, you're the spokesperson, Ms. Leavitt. This is the weakness. And I've said this before. It's not the policies of the Trump administration. It's the articulation of those policies. It's not hard. This Epstein thing could have been taken care of in 2 weeks. Just tell us what you know and how you know it. Crooks, just tell us what you know. I'm not getting it. I cannot get an answer, a cogent answer from anybody in the administration about why this fog continues to roll out of the White House. I mean, Caroline Leavitt, I believe her. She doesn't know. Now, people think, well, she can kick in the door of the FBI and demand to know. She can't. She has to go through. Steps. But I know the president's busy. But boy, all of this stuff is just debilitating. It just rolls out and doesn't help the country. And it doesn't make any sense. I'm so confused about it because Trump himself is very accessible. He's way more accessible than any other modern president. He's sitting there, he's taking the questions, he knows they're going to be rude, he takes them anyway. That's all to his credit. But we don't know why they didn't release the Epstein files earlier. They should have. And we don't know why we can't find out about Thomas Crooks. I wish I had more on it. I'm working it. Here's a final thought of the day. So I'm on Cuomo last night. I do that show every Wednesday. I do Leland Bittert on News Nation on Monday. And, everybody's blaming Donald Trump for killing innocent people in drug boats coming out of Venezuela. Oh, it's never been done before. Oh. It's a bunch of garbage. So I had to give a history lesson. Roll tape. Barack Obama used the exact same technique that Donald Trump is using to wipe out ISIS in Iraq. And he declared ISIS a danger to the United States. And then he waxed them to the tune of maybe 5,000. Didn't consult with Congress, didn't consult with anybody. That is exactly what's happening now with Venezuela. Same dictum, same thing. Then you go back a little further, maybe when you were in high school, and Bush the Elder removed Noriega in Panama and he didn't even bother with Congress either. He just said, this guy's running a narco state, and we're taking him out. Which they did. The United States military went into the country of Panama, grabbed Noriega, threw him on a plane, took him to Miami, put him on trial, and he was sent to prison. No Congress. So, when you hear all this nonsense, this is why you watch me, I know that. But my God, a little perspective, a little honesty, a little history. Okay. Thank you very much for watching and listening to the No Spin News. I'm Bill O'Reilly. New Sunday column might be on Mamdani Trump, depending on how much info I can get. We'll have that story for you on Monday. I want you to have a great weekend, and we'll see you then.